21st century learning. This is an idea that is hard to define because it is constantly changing. But there are three main aspects that I've discovered. One is student centered learning, two, being globally involved, and three, the four C's: critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration, which we'll dive into in the next couple slides. The first one is critical thinking. According to Bree Stauffer, critical thinking is the practice of solving problems that includes elements of skepticism, determining what is useful and not useful, and students learn how to discover facts and figures. The next C is creativity. Students are able to come up with creative solutions to everyday problems. They think outside the box, look at problems from multiple perspectives, and embrace the inner strength of the student. Personally, in my classroom, I have seen this creativity come out with students. One way is when students solve math problems. The piece about multiple perspectives comes into play because there are multiple ways to solve that math problem the students were working on. I have also seen students' creativity come out when working on a final project. They create a poster or presentation on the same topic, and depending on what their creative strength is how the final piece comes together. The third C is collaboration. According to Bree Stauffer, collaboration is the practice of working together to achieve a common goal. When working on a common goal, you are respecting the differences of others, students understand how to address the problem, and they recognize strengths and talents of people in the group. And the final C, communication. And again, according to Bree Stauffer, communication is the practice of converting ideas quickly and clearly. Students will be able to convey thoughts in a way people can understand them, and they efficiently convey an idea and they can read their audience. Within my own learning, I've experienced two of the C's, collaboration and communication. With collaboration, I have worked in several small groups and with several partners on projects to come up with lessons, and I was receptive and respectful to these new ideas that were shared. One example, in my senior year placement, there was another student in the same placement, and we worked together to create a lesson that we could co-teach together. In this process, I had to be respectful and receptive to the ideas she was coming up with, and she also had to do the same so we could create a successful lesson for us to co-teach. For communication, especially as I've started my graduate work, communication has played a role as a 21st century learner for me because I have had to learn how to efficiently communicate ideas, especially in blog posts, and share my thoughts in a way people can understand them, since my blog post can be seen by anyone around the world. And I have to be able to share the ideas I am presenting in a way that people who may not be familiar with an idea can understand what I'm talking about. Moving forward, in my classroom, I would like to keep these three main aspects of 21st century learning in mind in my professional career, starting with student-centered learning. I want students to have more choices of how they learn and present their final ideas because I want students to take charge of their own learning. When creating these lessons, I want to keep in mind the TPACK framework so that I don't just consider what pedagogical knowledge I have to use, but also what technological knowledge, because if students want to take charge of their learning, they might want a technology piece. Moving forward, with student-centered learning, I hope to do more inquiry-based learning or project-based learning so students have that opportunity to take charge of their learning. An area I would like to grow in is students being globally involved. I want to make the topics we learn in school related to the real world. Now, this is something I've always strived to do, but now with 21st century learning, society is expanding out of its small little bubble that we're familiar with, and it is important that as a teacher, I provide students with the skills to be comfortable and respectful out of their immediate bubbles. The last aspect is the three C's. This is something that I realized I have already been doing, but I can improve upon. I have been pretty good at having collaboration and creativity in my classroom, but moving forward, I hope to better incorporate communication. One way I envision this is to have students blog about their work. This way, they can think about how they are presenting an idea and make sure they are concise when doing so. That way, people outside their little bubble can understand what they are saying. Through the blog, they would also be able to collaborate with people outside their immediate bubble, which would help them to be globally involved. Moving forward, I have to keep in mind these aspects of 21st century learning in order to create 21st century learners.